Now shall I proclaim the mighty deeds of Indra, the first that the striker achieved. He struck down the serpent Ahin, he cleft open the waters, he split apart the strongholds of the mountains, and restored the flow of Vrtra. He slew the Ahin lying upon the mountain. Vaster fashioned for him the great and deadly sun-like Vajra. Like lowing cattle released from bondage, the waters rushed straight to the sea. Mighty and impetuous, bull-strong in force, he chose the Soma for himself and drank the best draught from 3 sacred cups. Bhagavan grasped the thunder missile, Vajra, as his weapon and struck down Vrtra, the foremost of the obstructors. When Indra destroyed the first of the Ahins, he dismantled the untruths imposed by those who perpetuate falsehoods and shattered the stratagem of the enchanters. Then, generating the sun and the dawn, he found no rival left to stand against him. Indra smote Vrtra with his great and deadly Vajra. Like a tree hacked apart by an axe, the Ahin lay shattered, embracing the earth. Footless and handless, he still dared challenge Indra. And Indra stuck the Vajra between his joints, emasculated yet claiming manly Veda. Vrtra lay torn apart, scattered in pieces. Over him flowed the liberated waters, those he had once damned in his own might. Body of Vrtra sank into perpetual darkness as the rivers reclaimed their course. Upward lay the mother, downward the sun, Tanu with Vrtra beneath her like a cow fallen with her calf. The waters, once confined like cattle to the pawnees, once standing as wives of the Dasa, were released when Indra slew Vrtra and uncovered the hidden passage. You won back the cows, you won back the Soma. You released the 7 rivers to flow. No thunder, no mist, and no hail could withstand him. When Indra and Vrtra met in battle, the generous one, Bhagavan, gained victory then and forever. Did you see him then as the exterminator of the Ahin, so that a thrill came to your heart, O destroyer? 99 streams you crossed like a thrilled falcon over the skies. Indra is king of all that moves and moves not, the horn and the hornless, the settled and the wandering. As the rim encloses the spokes of the wheel, so Indra encompasses all.
What you just heard is a dramatized, translated rendition of the classic Rigveda 1.32 sūkta, the triumph of Indra over Vrtra, Ahi, the enveloper or obstructor. Rigveda 1.32 is amongst the most celebrated hymns of the entire Rigveda, arguably the most famous one, attributed to Hiraṇyastūpa Āṅgirasa Rishi. It narrates the primordial account of Indra as Vrtrahan, the breaker of Vrtra, often described as a dragon or serpent. My illustration portrays Indra in his golden-hued, bull-like masculine agency, slaying Vrtra, bleeding from his being and sinking into nothingness, writhing in pain. Indra is indeed Shatakratru, one of 100-fold will. Let us elucidate the symbolism of this classic tale. The long and unsegmented body of the serpent symbolizes the totality of all being or existence in its undifferentiated state. Therefore, this act of slaying Vrtra, the ultimate symbol of chaos or undifferentiation, transforms a blocked, unmanifest or asat cosmos into ordered, manifest, sat, flowing existence. Yes, this is a dragon-slaying tale, but also an act that individuates deities, phenomena and forms. Kumaraswamy, in Perception of the Vedas, interprets the Vrtra-slaying myth as a profound cosmological allegory. Before manifestation, Agni, Soma and Varuna exist as dark, continuous, Ophidian and unmanifest principles, identified with the archetypal Asura, the primordial ground of being, Asat. Indra represents the first emergence of differentiated consciousness, luminous and manifest, Sat. His slaying of Vrtra symbolizes the breaking open of undivided unity into articulated multiplicity, the moment where form, distinction and the visible cosmos arises. Vrtra essentially is therefore the blocker of all devas, and Indra's role here is that of begetting differentiated existence of these hidden devas. It's why Agni declares that he gives up the father, which is unmanifest state, and chooses Indra. It is implied in Mandala 4 by Vamadeva Gautama Rishi that Vrtra is therefore the proverbial father of the devas, killed by Indra and laid into perpetual darkness. Dirgham tamam ashayat. In Rigveda 10.124, it is declared that Agni, Soma and Varuna, they diminish, those asuras become powerless. So, Agni, Soma and Varuna are called asuras, that is of luminous strength. But that old, subtle reality is destroyed by this cosmogenic act of Indra, and a new set of forms is differentiated.
The above is yet more evidence against the identification of the primordial, unmanifest old Asura with Varuna, because Varuna himself is made manifest by Indra. Therefore, there is no need to even entertain the idea that there was an old Asuric Varuna cult that was usurped by a new, younger Deva cult of Indra. Indra is about as primeval as it gets in the Vedic worldview.
Hearing all this, isn't it indisputable that this is the most profound, symbolic, and deeply metaphysical version of the famous Indo-European dragon-slaying myth by a storm god? Indra is more than just a storm god. He is multivariate in his divine nature, though that is a topic for later. The bardic tradition of the Rishis is unparalleled in the Indo-European world, both in terms of robustness of the corpus, surgical conception, and preservation, as well as the richness and sheer depth of the poetic allegories. There is no equivalent. The Rishi poet Hiraṇyastūpa employs an intricate rhetorical device. Indra is asked whether he has ever witnessed someone else slaying Vrtra, since the exhilaration that floods the worlds at Indra's own deeds admits no conceivable comparison. Question itself is an exaltation, for no other act could equal the cosmic thrill produced by Indra's victory over Vrtra. The interrogative word kaha, who, simultaneously supplies its own answer. In Rigvedic diction, kaha is not merely a pronoun, but a veiled epithet of Indra himself as the ultimate reality, the incomprehensible, ever-sought power invoked across the mystical hymns of this Vedic corpus. Indeed, equivalent to the Brahman of Upanishadic and later Hindu literature. Thus, the poet frames Indra's exploits through a paradoxical question whose resolution affirms Indra alone as the slayer, beyond rival and beyond measure. This hymn presents the earliest known dragon-slaying story in world literature, long before later Indo-European echoes like that of Thor and Jormungandr, Zeus and Typhon, Hercules and the Hydra, Perun and Veles. This is the archetype, Vrtra, the Ahin, who encloses, blocks, withholds, and Indra, impetuous as a bull, who cleaves, releases, and restores Rita, or cosmic order. The waters, restrained like cattle, are freed. The dawn and the sun are re-established. Movement itself resumes. This story becomes the template for later dharmic stories. Even Lord Krishna's subjugation of Kaliya retains an Aindriya archetype, that is, evoking the trope of a god slaying a serpent of chaos. Many divine traits of Indra get superimposed onto Puranic divinities indeed. What's interesting here is that Rishi Hiraṇyastūpa described Vrtra as Vrtra, the typical Vrtra blocker, archetypal withholder or enveloper. And this is equally why I find it mildly infuriating when the Puranas turn Vrtra into a Brahmin, to somehow make this an episode of Brahmahatya, that is, putting the sin of killing a learned one onto Indra. It fully kills the mythopoetic depth and the intrigue of the Vedic conception of this episode. It makes it mundane rather than happening in a context beyond space and time, in that time of undifferentiated, chaotic existence. The sage Dadiji's sacrifice of himself so that the Vajra can be fashioned from his bones again reduces the investment we have with Indra as a protagonist of this battle. He becomes a mere plot device who not only sacrifices a sage to kill a demon, but also ultimately commits Brahmahatya or Brahmana murder. So, what is the ultimate outcome for him in this perspective? If I may be so bold to say, this restyling of the account renders it void. He is far from the central god hero of the Vedas, with no sympathy from the reader. Yes, in the Vedas, it is sometimes implied Indra has help in slaying Vrtra, but this is not direct in my humble opinion. Twashtar's fashioning Indra's Vajra has subtext to it. Twashtar is the maker of forms and the representative of craft, the skill in action. Indra is the vivifier, the impetus to will to power and action, and therefore is a proverbial son of Twashtar. And thus, they are connected by this conceptual thread. Vrtra is described as footless and handless, yet still daring to challenge Indra, a riveted image of ontological obstruction. Indra's sun-like thunderous Vajra, fashioned by Twashtar, is the instrument through which blockage is undone and circulation returns. Tools help us fashion, refine, and order existence, which is typified by chaotic potential. Therefore, as the user of this weapon, Indra is Vajra Bahu, wielder of the luminous Vajra. Indeed, Indra and Vrtra are both inside of us. Nihilists and skeptics are often so caught up in beholding the dragon that they forget the dragon is not the point or the end goal, but something to be contended with. That contending is Indra. Vishnu is asked to walk across the cosmos. Sakhe Vishnu Vitaram Vi Kramashva, the famous 3 steps across board Bhuaswaha toward the ultimate station, that is Paramapadam or Swar. The Maruts are implied to help Indra, since Indra is prana or life force. The Maruts are the pranic life winds, the legion of Indra. Pushan and Vishnu apparently prepare 100 buffaloes for Indra in this very same context. And Vak Saraswati is also implied to ritually empower the Vajra and is explicitly called Vrtragni in a verse. This shows the all-participating nature of Vedic divinity. And there is no ranking or sectarian ontology here, but the ultimate, most pure version of the story as narrated in Rigveda 1.32. The slaying of Vrtrahan, this victory, is firmly Indra's, done by Indra's Maya and bold strong force. Indra is the manifester of the radiance of the Devas, the flow of the Sapta Sindhu or 7 streams, and the begetter of the sun and the dawn. Hail Indra!